Iran continues to act with tremendous irresponsibility. We are in very close contact and coordination with the United Kingdom, Israel, Romania, and other countries, and there will be a collective response.
Biden administration showing its teeth a little bit to Iran for the first time, promising, as you heard, a collective response after Iran carried out a drone strike on this tanker that is managed by an Israeli company. That happened yesterday. Now we're going to show you where it happened and why it's going to impact you at home. And this is important. Strait of Hormuz right here. It's only about 25 or 30 miles here. Iran controls much of this, and they continue to harass shipping in the strait. They use this as a linchpin and a leverage point for the United States and against the Saudis as well. The strait sees roughly 18 million barrels of oil pass through it every day, and Iran has the largest border there, United Arab Emirates and Oman down here. It's not the first time Iran has targeted an oil tanker in the straits. They've also targeted U.S. warships. It's not going to be the last. What's in it for them? Well, whenever there's trouble right here, the price of oil goes up. So for a country like Iran, that means hard currency into that country. And of course, here at home, it means gas prices just go up. Morgan Ortagus was a spokesperson in the State Department under both President Bush and also under President Trump. Morgan, dissect that word, collective response. Is it that tough a language?
Well, and I also lived in Saudi Arabia, right where you're pointing to, whenever I worked for President Obama. So this has been something that Republican and Democrat administrations have had to deal with. The Iranians have been up to this sort of behavior for a long time. And it's important for your audience to know, Leland, that this was nothing more than a terrorist attack. And the administration has struggled to call it what it is. But this is a terrorist attack sponsored by the Islamic Republic of Iran. And in fact, we know that these sort of suicide drones that they used that were packed with explosive actually targeted the sleeping quarters on these ships. So they were intentionally going after civilians. They may have not known who was on the ship, but they had every intent to kill the British and Romanian national that they killed. So first of all, America and the United Kingdom and the EU should be treating this as it is, as a terrorist attack. And we should stop negotiating this stupid, flimsy JCPOA with Iran while they're committing terrorist attacks.
So, but the term collective response, was that meant to be scary? Should Iran interpret it as scary?
I think it was meant to be vague because they're not exactly sure where the response will come from. I don't know that it's likely that it's going to come from the United States, only because it wasn't one of our citizens that were targeted. It was obviously, I mentioned earlier, British, Romanian, and of course an Israeli owned ship, from what we know so far. So I think it's likely that you could respect a response from one of the countries that were targeted.
We certainly know the Israelis never shy away from such responses, but unlikely to see something like what you oversaw of Qasem Soleimani or some kind of major punchback. You'd expect something more proportional.
I think so. I think that's right, and we'll see what proportional is. I'm sure whatever is being discussed is being coordinated with the United States and with the EU. But I have to tell you, Leland, that there's some troubling things that we're seeing come out of the European Union. Number one, they still haven't publicly named it as Iran being behind this terrorist attack, which the whole world knows it was. And number two, the EU is actually sending their lead negotiator, who's their negotiator on the JCPOA, to Raisi's inaugural, which is the new, quote-unquote president of Iran. They're sending him to the inaugural, right? We shouldn't be sending diplomats and treating this inauguration as if it's normal, and treating this terrorist state as if it's normal. They should be treated as the pariah state that they are.
We also saw something interesting inside of Iran, which was protests in the streets, very similar to the Green Revolution that began when President Obama first took office, a little bit of deja vu all over again. Anything worth reading into that in terms of Iran trying to flex its muscle while you've got these protests?
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is very typical for the regime. Anytime they have anything going on inside the country, one of the first things that they tend to do is to cut off the internet. So we've always sought for ways to try and support the Iranian people, and we hope that this administration, whether it's the people of Iran or the people of Cuba, you know, these people are protesting for their freedom, for the right for a transparent and open government, and so we will see what they do. I think it was the fall of 2019, I believe it was, before COVID, when these similar protests happened in Iran. And actually, we estimated, and it's hard to estimate these numbers, but we estimated at the State Department at the time that there was about 10,000 Iranian citizens that they jailed, and that they killed probably likely at least 1,500 of their own citizens. So they will, they will put these protests down with brutal force.
All right, Morgan, unfortunately, we got to leave it there. We've had long conversations in the past. We will in the future, especially about Afghanistan as the drawdown continues. See you soon.
Congrats on the new show, Leland.
Thank you. Thank you. Congrats on the move to Nashville.